Warning, the words and lyrics written by 2D6 and its creators do not necessarily reflect the thoughts and opinions shared by Tanner Bivens.
Boba Fett sucks! Your dad got killed right in front of you. Boba Fett sucks!
Basically, it was only the extended universe that saved you.
Boba Fett sucks!
Whoa, ho, 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 ho. Ha, 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 ha. Oh, man. Welcome to Tales from Tanner's Palace, which is marked with probably the best thumbnail that Nick has ever done. Please, if you get a chance, pause the video right as the thumbnail pops up after the intro song, just to really get a good look at it, because whenever I first saw it, whenever he first showed it to me, I was on the floor laughing. That was one of the best, one of the best ones that he has ever done for the show. Just the image of that just makes me so fucking happy. So here's the deal. I'm looking through my books and whatnot, going over all of the Star Wars stuff, and I realized that, I'm kind of running short on things that I wanted to discuss with this month. The fact that I did the first bit of Star Wars month in November right after Thanksgiving was a mistake on my part, I admit. So I was looking through, I was like, I could do modules or supplementary books or something, and then I had the idea, which was this one, is that for a person that talks about RPGs and whatnot in the show, I've rarely, if ever, discussed games that I've been a part of and games that I ran. So the idea with this one is, I was like, okay, probably a good idea to put away the role-playing game books just to kind of, give me a little bit more time to play around with them for this month. Age of Empire, Age of Rebellion is going to be coming up next, which is also another great set of books. I have a lot to talk about on those. So those will be a lot of fun. Not only that, we're also going to see the top and bottom movies of 2017, which I'm looking forward to, mainly because Fiona's going to be joining me. For those of you who do not follow Project Derailed, Fiona Kelly is the person who writes a lot of articles for Project Derailed, the site that you see this from, and that I also work with. So, it's fun to know that Fiona's going to be joining me for that, and together the two of us are going to have a great time with that. But either way, that's what's coming up, and this is going to be a couple of stories of times that I've done Star Wars games, even most recently as Monday, and then another one just for, shits and gigs, and another one that is meant to kind of challenge something that I heard from another person who did videos like this. I don't think he does them anymore. So let's start with the one recently. The recent game that I wanted to talk about is a game, once again, if you're on Project Derailed watching this, then you already know about Sidetrack. If you're not on Project Derailed, then this is a reason to go to Project Derailed, the site that I create content for. Sidetrack is a show that we do. On that show, we recently had a game in which Nick ran a Goblin Quest game in which he kind of worked it to go with Star Wars, where we were a bunch of inept stormtroopers. The idea with Goblin Quest is that you have a group of kind of inept goblins, and the idea is to die in kind of the most hilarious ways possible. So, Goblin Quest, for this game, stormtroopers known for being inept or terrible shots or terrible shots, I don't know. So the idea is that we were a bunch of inept stormtroopers who crashed on this apparently habitable planet. And we just, for whatever reason, could not get off of this damn planet to save our lives. But the idea is that we had to find food because we were running out in our crashed Star Destroyer. So what I find kind of funny about this game that we just played is the idea of whenever things don't go as planned, and you just kind of enjoy the idea of watching the train wreck sort of happen. And in this case, it was not in a way that we were anticipating. Because the idea of Goblin Quest is to die in the most hilarious ways possible. The idea is kind of failure, from what I can tell. Nick got it from the Geek and Sundry show, Critical Role. I think they did a show for... I haven't seen it once. I mean, probably someone in the comments could enlighten me on the show that they did on that one. I wasn't sure, but he got it from there, and the idea was is that we were going to die, like, we were going to have 5 characters each between the 4 of us, the 3 others that were with me, and myself, and we'd have 20 characters, and they'd all die in the most hilariously gratuitous ways possible, like Final Destination eat your heart out levels of death. So, which was interesting. Like I said, this whole story goes into how you sometimes just have to turn into the skids, so to speak, that whenever plans don't go your way, just kind of at least have fun with the train wreck that came. And that's exactly what happened with us, is because in this one, unlike other games where you're supposed to be competent but you end up inept, where like you fail spectacularly, in this one we were supposed to fail spectacularly, and really, we kind of did good. We were actually like the most confident stormtroopers out there, like to the point that I was trying to get my characters killed, and really it wasn't working. I had like the best set of dice rolls I've had in a long time in gaming. The idea was, like I said, they sent it out 4 at a time. And, I mean, some people died in hilarious ways. For instance, like, the first of my characters, who was a science team, thought that he had force power, so whenever this alien tried to... I think he was going to eat the data... He wanted the data scanner or something, and he kind of waved his hand as like, you do not want my data scanner, because he thought he was force sensitive. And so the alien was like, you're right, I don't want the data scanner. I want your head. And then bit my stormtrooper's head off. So I was like, that was how it was supposed to happen. And then my next character survived longer than anybody should. Like, most of the characters, like, did exceptionally well, no matter, like, the world is meant to be stacked against us, and somehow we kept rolling exceptionally well. To the point that, we succeeded where we were really not supposed to. My second character went up against a Rancor with nothing but his blaster and, like, absolutely mowed into this fucking Rancor. Like, the idea was supposed to be kind of like, I guess, like, the Benny Hill meets, like, I don't know, some sort of horror movie. And then it turned into just competent stormtroopers doing what they do best. Like, with our combined efforts, we ended up killing a Rancor with nothing but a couple of blasters and some can-do attitude. The guy ended up dying mainly because he was just trying to get a speeder to work, and like I think he ended up exploding. But most of the other characters in the game also did exceptionally well. Most of them survived for a long time, and it ended up the game ended... not so much a bang, but in a whimper, as one of my characters ran up and just kind of screamed like, hey guys, can we just have this food? And the people chasing us after we killed the Rancor were like, sure. I mean, granted, like, the game was a partial success in the fact that 13 out of 20 stormtroopers died, but really, it was one of the most bizarre experiences I ever had, because we weren't supposed to do as well as we did. We weren't supposed to live through this. The entire game was supposed to be, like I said, watch a lot of stormtroopers get killed in horrific ways, and that did not take place. Like, we actually did really well. Who would have thought it? I don't know. The next story that I had, it's not so much a story, but a game that I ran mainly to kind of prove... I mean, this game didn't get ran to prove a point. The story being told is to kind of prove a point. Another person that did videos like this was a guy named Noah Antweiler, aka Spoonie. I saw some of his videos in the past, and I remember one of the videos that he did in particular when it came to Star Wars was the idea of, like, you either have to have all Jedi or no Jedi, and the general idea that he brought up, especially in his games, is that, and rightfully so as far as story structure is concerned, especially for the Star Wars world, that the Jedi are supposed to be not only the brave knights, but they're also kind of supposed to be the main antagonists in the Star Wars game. So whenever it came to the big bad showing up, and it was time to have a great lightsaber battle, and then all the other characters shooting, and like the Jedi's like, nah, I need to have this fight, and they're like, nah, if we gang up on this guy, it's easy. And yeah, I mean, kind of anticlimactic in a story sense. So I mean, I heard that one. A lot of that I kind of agreed with, especially like the idea that you have to, if you're running a game that has a built-in universe, it's best to stay out of the main story. For instance, like he brought up the idea that he had like his people on Hoth who escaped and they saw Darth Vader, so they spun the ship around so they could kill Darth Vader and basically ruin the plot of the movies. I'm kind of with him on that one. Like, that's probably a good idea not to screw with the main story. It's best to not give players that opportunity, because I'll be honest with you, if you give them the opportunity, they're going to take it. I mean, I would take it. Like, if I saw Darth Vader on Hoth or in the Battle of Yavin and I'm an X-Fighter and I'm in an X-Wing, you bet your sweet ass I would try to kill him. I mean, that's just a given. Like, you gotta go for glory on that. So I'm with him there. Just it's best not to interact. But the area that I took a little bit of challenge to was he brought up the idea that it's all Jedi or no Jedi, and really, I've played multiple games of Star Wars, some not as memorable as others, and when it comes to this one, all Jedi or no Jedi? No, you can have a mix of Jedi and stuff. It's the idea that you have to have players that are going to be willing to give up something. If you go in as a Jedi expecting to not only be the main character with everyone else being your lackeys just because they're not Jedi, you're probably going to have a bad time. And it's also really a good idea to have like 2 Jedi, just to make sure that like idea does not seep into their head that, oh, because I'm the Jedi, I'm the main character. But I've run multiple games where Jedi are intermixed with at least characters that are on the same wavelength. So like, let's say like Rebel fighters or, clone troopers, in the Clone Wars or something, or post trilogy worlds where I ran a game before the extended universe got canned. And Luke trained a whole bunch of new Jedi, so it was the new recruits with these like kind of like bounty hunters, mercenaries, and the entire story was that Dark Jedi had gone against the Jedi codes of that Luke Skywalker warranted, and they had to bring him to justice. So they go out, and I mean, really, like, he hired a bunch of Imperial remnant, and like it was a really like a fun battle. And the way that I kind of curved the all Jedi or no Jedi thing is just by having multiple bad guys. I mean, like, let's even look at the main trilogy. Like, the main characters of Star Wars is Luke, Han, and Leia, before all the new stuff and the prior ones. But the idea being Luke, Han, and Leia, and Luke might be the titular character, but Han and Leia can still have bad guys to face. So the idea being you have the Dark Jedi, but then you have the Imperial Remnant commander. So whenever the big boss fight happens, you could even have 2 villains that could offset it. Or sometimes just you can have the one, and you can find ways around this. Like, the best course of action is to find people who are going to be like, yeah, whenever the big bad comes, it's not just going to be me and him. Like, you need to get rid of that mindset that the Jedi has to face the Sith, that the Jedi has to be the main character, the Sith or the Dark Jedi has to be the main bad guy, and they were the 2 that have to clash because of conventional storytelling methods. Not exactly the case. You can still have a very satisfying game, which we did as well. Like, while the Jedis in our game really wanted to face the guy, And they talked about that. They were like, all right, we really want to face this guy. Can we do it? And they were like, yeah, sure. While you're doing that, we'll go take care of the Imperial Remnant. And so we did have the problem where you split the party and then you have to run two different stories basically at the table and you're juggling between things, but it kind of gave off that more Return of the Jedi cinematic vibe where it bounces to Endor and then Endor's moon, and then it bounces to Luke up in the Death Star, and then it bounces to the people fighting in the air. Like, it had that nice little balance too. So really, the idea of all Jedi or no Jedi can be a fun concept. It can be an easy way to fix it, but is it necessary? I don't necessarily think so. And with this last one, I really wanted to talk about Boba Fett.